An insider has denied that a Buckingham Palace official put pressure on the Welsh government to stop King Charles from being criminally liable under a new law. A royal insider has rebuffed a report that claimed a palace aide lobbied the Welsh government to exempt King Charles from being criminally liable under a new law. A source told GB News that despite a Guardian report that a courtier demanded assurances the monarch could not be prosecuted under last year's Agriculture, Wales, Act when it was being drawn up, no objections were made by the Welsh government, and the Buckingham Palace official was understood to be simply checking correct procedure was being followed. A parliamentary mechanism, which dates back hundreds of years, requires ministers to send draft legislation to the reigning monarch. This would then allow for royal lawyers to check if it would affect the monarch's personal interests, private property, or their public duties. After The Guardian branded the mechanism archaic, a Welsh spokesperson told GB News that the immunity for the monarch from prosecution is a long-established principle. In a detailed statement, a Buckingham Palace spokesperson explained to the publication, under pre-existing Welsh law, specifically Section 28(3) of the legislation, Wales, Act 2019, it is not possible for Welsh subordinate legislation to make the sovereign criminally liable, not least as it would be constitutionally inappropriate to prosecute a monarch in whose name the Crown Prosecution Service and courts would act. Despite The Guardian alleging a courtier demanded assurances His Majesty could not be prosecuted under last year's Agriculture, Wales, Act when it was being drawn up, no objections were made by the Welsh government, and the Buckingham Palace official was understood to be simply checking correct procedure was being followed. Republic is now considering taking legal action after the newspaper claimed that a palace aide lobbied the Welsh government to exempt himself from environmental legislation last year. The paper wrote, as a matter of legal correctness, assurance was therefore sought that this position would be maintained when subordinate legislation for the Agriculture, Wales, Act 2023 came to be drafted, to allow the process of consent required by Welsh parliamentary procedure, Standing Order 26.67, to be properly informed. At no point were any objections raised by the Welsh government, either formally or informally, in relation to this process. Consent was given in the usual way, as was royal assent. King's consent is a parliamentary process, and His Majesty has granted consent on each occasion it has been requested by government. The Guardian has reported that last year's Agriculture, Wales, Act exempts King Charles IEA from rules relating to the marketing agricultural products, the disposal of carcasses, and the disclosure of information to the Welsh state. Speaking to GB News, Plaid Cymru's Liz Saville Roberts MP has said, reports that royal courtiers privately put pressure on the Welsh government to ensure that King Charles could not be prosecuted for rural crimes under a new law are concerning. Such anachronistic practices have no place in our modern Welsh democracy. Prior to King Charles ascending the throne in 2022, Queen Elizabeth II is thought to have examined more than 1,000 bills during her 70-year reign. One bill included a form of legislation that could have affected her private properties at Balmoral and Sandringham. The king is currently taking time away from public-facing duties due to undergoing cancer treatment. The monarch was diagnosed with an undisclosed form of cancer back in February and has only made one appearance at a major event since. King Charles and Queen Camilla are currently spending time at Birkhall in Scotland, a few days after their 19th wedding anniversary on April 9.